Hello everyone, thank you for tuning in again. I am Kaylee Batesman, the content director at She Can Code, and today we're discussing breaking stereotypes around cybersecurity. Now, working in cybersecurity is often viewed as a job centered around technical skills and long hours, which has played a large part in it becoming a male-dominated industry. But the reality is technical skills can be taught on the job, and softer, more human skills such as being able to communicate effectively are equally as important. To talk all things cyber and to help break down these stereotypes, I'm joined today by the amazing Renske Galema, Area VP for Northern Europe at CyberArk. Welcome, Renske.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for joining us. It's a pleasure to have you with us. We actually haven't had the topic of cybersecurity in this depth before, so it's going to be really nice to delve into that. I know a lot of our ladies in the community are interested in careers in it, so it would be really interesting to hear your expertise on that today. To kick off though, can we start with a little bit of background about yourself, please?
Yes, absolutely. So I'm based in Amsterdam, and I've spent my whole career in cybersecurity, really. I've studied information management in a University of Applied Science, and then I went into a couple of really long stays at companies. So I stayed with one company for 18 years, really grew up in that company, looking at different aspects of sales management, because that's what I do. And spending time in Sweden, spending time in Eastern Europe and Russia, and obviously also the Benelux, because that's my hometown. After that, I did an MBA on the Erasmus University in Rotterdam, and now I'm here at CyberArk for almost 5 years. So I look after Northern Europe, which is the UK, Ireland, the Nordic countries, and the Benelux. And yeah, I'm enjoying it very much.
Yeah, and it sounds like you're like a very loyal employee by the sounds of it. Was there any reason why you stayed at that particular company? Was there something about the culture that you really loved and you thought, you know what, I really want to stay here?
It's interesting. In hindsight, maybe I should have left sooner. Obviously, I mean, I was very young when I got there. I was like 24, 25. I grew up in that company. But in hindsight, I think it's kept me back a little bit. I am a loyal employee. I work all hours of the day trying to achieve what I have to achieve. And if it's not going the way we planned, I would blame myself first, right? So in hindsight, I think I should have made a couple of jumps to grow faster, basically.
Yeah. I'm sure that there was something about that company that kept you, that you probably saw actually when you jumped ship to CyberArk anyway. There must have been something there where you thought that kind of mirrors what I'm used to in terms of a great culture.
Yeah, well, the culture at CyberArk is really something else. And talking about inclusivity, it's something I find here is anyway, there is a big portion of female colleagues. But the culture is much more one of teamwork. Let's do this together. I really like the company where I stayed so long was a little bit different. But one of the things I learned there, and the big adventure I had there, was I managed Eastern Europe, Russia, and the former Russian states for about 8 years. And that was a huge adventure. Culturally, totally not comparable to CyberArk, but I would say it was the same mindset of let's see how we can develop these areas and go for it. So that was a big adventure for me.
Yes, yeah. And we have so much to get through today on the topic of cybersecurity. So could we kick off for our listeners? Could you give us a quick summary of what cybersecurity is and what it involves?
Absolutely, yes. So basically, if you look at businesses keeping their data safe, keeping their IP and the employees safe, making sure the data stays where it needs to be. That's what cybersecurity is. And more specifically, and why am I at this company, is the element of identity security from it. So you can do a lot of security on the outside of a company, like a firewall, antivirus. But identity security is much more about keeping the identities within a company safe. And our tagline would be, is think like an attacker. We think inevitably a hacker could come in, but how can we minimize the risks there? How can we minimize what this hacker can steal, or steal data, or maybe ransomware the organization? We do that by securing all the identities, human or non-human, which is to me is really the next level in cybersecurity.
Yeah, and when the company that you worked for was acquired and you went over to cybersecurity, it must have sounded, I mean, did they describe it the way that you just described it there? Because it sounds like there's quite a clear mission. That it was, some people say, you know, coming into tech, they're not quite sure what their job is going to be. There are certain roles where you kind of hear, data scientist is one we hear on here a lot, where people say, you know what, I kind of know what the role is, but I don't know what I'm going to be doing. But cybersecurity, it sounds very clear mission. Keep things safe, keep data safe, as you said, keep identity safe. It's a very clear mission that you have. I'm assuming that's, you know, one of the many things that you love about working in cybersecurity. Yeah.
No, it's true. But when I first rolled into cybersecurity, I found it was much more of giving our customers fear, like, oh, this could happen, that could happen, you have to protect for it. That's not how it is right now, because if you're only selling on fear, or rather compliance, you could say, well, I've got the solution. I'm not using it, but I got it. So I've got the tick in the box. Right now, the industry is much more about, okay, how can we apply the security in such a way that you can optimize your productivity? And I think that balance is something that I'm really passionate about. Because if you, ultimate security would be you can't do anything. It's super secure, but your business will also not survive. So where is that balance? That's really what makes me tick, and it has been my passion over all these years.
Yeah, I love the fact that you completely look at it from the positive side of, as you said, optimizing productivity, and not from a side of fear. Because you're absolutely right. I've heard that before about the cybersecurity community, that as a community, it's quite a paranoid community. It's always thinking the worst. And right. As you said, an element of that is, you know, thinking how an attacker would think, but looking at it from you know, the positive side, how to optimize productivity.
Yeah, and in a way it's a rat race, especially if you only focus on the outside, right? A hacker is making a certain step. How can we remediate it? If you turn it around and you say, let's make sure a hacker just cannot get anywhere, all of a sudden the rat race is turned around, and the cybersecurity is in the lead. And that's, I think it's quite an intriguing way of looking at it.
How did you get into cybersecurity? I think it's got, you know, even describing it there, I think some people can, I think they understand what it is, but perhaps a career in it is not something that they would consider. How did you get into that? Is it something that, I mean, you said you started at a company quite young, but did somebody point you in that direction, or did you just see something and you thought that's for me?
It's a funny story, because I was originally working in process automation, and the company I worked for was acquired by a big cybersecurity company, and they actively took me over on the cybersecurity side, and I was really really intrigued by it. I like having this look in the kitchen of a customer, and I'm quite passionate about helping the customer, making sure their security is on par with what it should be, but it also makes sure their processes are running like normal. And so it needs to be optimized in multiple ways, optimized like maximum security, but also optimize that the operation can run through.
I mean, are there other things about your career in cyber that you find exciting? It sounds as well like you must work with so many different clients. You must work across so many industries that your day must be very, varied.
Yeah, it's super varied, and especially because I've got quite a large region. And so I speak to financial services customers, public customers in all these countries. It's really interesting to see how they slightly differ also in the way they do business. Obviously, there are common denominators, but a Swedish company will act much more in, okay, are we all in agreement? If everyone is in agreement, then we take the step. Whereas more in the UK, it's organized in a different way. It's really interesting to see that. It's nothing to do with cybersecurity as such, but very much about how organizations have structured themselves. It's quite fun to look at. Yeah.
Yes, yeah. And so like most areas of tech, then cybersecurity is very male dominated. But why should women consider a career in cyber, do you think?
To me, it's so intriguing why this is male dominated, but it is. So let me ask you a question. If you think about a hacker, describe what are you seeing if you think about a hacker?
You immediately think of a male sitting there, hoodie up,
right?
Sitting there trying to hack something.
Funny. It's so funny because why? I think it is a misconception that this is super technical or very heavy lifting on data mining or coding. I'll give you the example for big data. The percentage females in big data is a lot higher than it is in cybersecurity. Don't ask me the number, I don't know it by heart. But there isn't that much difference. So big data is, and cybersecurity, it is about data, it is about finding patterns. And it shouldn't be male dominated, but it is. It has some sort of image that I think we need to reset. Because if we are not resetting it, we are also going to have a problem we cannot solve in cybersecurity. There are a lot more people are needed in cybersecurity. It's constantly growing. If we only look at one part of the population, we do ourselves a disservice. We have to be much more inclusive, so we will have to actively work on changing our image there.
Yes, I agree, because when even the press, when we write stories about cybersecurity and you're looking for an image to go with that story, you instantly go with the stock image that first shows up, and it's a guy sitting at his laptop, in a black hoodie. It has a dark covering over his face or something, so you can't see who it is. And you're absolutely right. You see it everywhere. And in the tech industry, we talk so much about you can't be what you can't see, and just changing the imagery that we see throughout the industry is so important, even when it comes to the hackers and the bad guys, who they are. And just to seem more appealing to women wanting to work in the industry, because diversity within the industry, it is so important, isn't it? It's just, not just within your own team and company, but industry wide.
Yeah, it's very important. If we are more inclusive, we will find, I think we will include all the ways of working of all the people. We will have a variety of skills available. There will be a lot more soft skills that are really important here as well, like communication. And we need the whole mesh of skills to continue in this rat race that I talked about. And if we don't do that, we might miss out on very clever ways to stay ahead in the rat race. And we need to do that by combining multiple skills, by combining multiple points of view.
And where you just mentioned soft skills there, is it something that you hear a lot that is quite disappointing to hear, actually, that throughout the tech industry, people just think, I need the technical skills, I need my degree, computer science degree, whatever it is, you come out and you join a company and that's it. But actually, you must use a whole range of soft skills every day. I mean, you just mentioned communication skills there. I suppose it's kind of, that would put off a lot of females as well, wouldn't it, coming in thinking, well, perhaps I don't have the necessary technical qualifications, I won't go for a certain role, and actually don't realise that they've picked up so many other, valuable soft skills along the way, and that they would be quite well suited for a job perhaps in cyber, and don't even realise.
No, absolutely. I got two examples there. If talking about communication, a big part of the work my team does and I do is talking to customers. If you cannot translate what the customer is saying and come back with an answer that maybe has some technical background, but it's set in a way that the customer can understand it, then it's very difficult to build up the trust. Trust is very important in our industry. So this is vitally important. But another thing, and I've got a quick anecdote. I did an MBA, as I said, and I started the MBA because I felt I was managing too much emotion. And I thought, okay, I need more hard facts. I need more wisdom. I'm going to do this MBA. Fast forward to the day that I was defending my thesis. And you defend your thesis, you go out in the hallway, the professor prepares, and then you come back in and you get your grade. And he said, before I start, Renske, let me say one thing really clear. Your biggest skill is your empathy, is your emotion. And I was like, oh.
You've seen that as something that might have been holding you back.
Exactly. So when I started, empathy was sometimes mistaken as weakness. And that's something I'm now fighting very hard against. So I have embraced this. I think empathy is a really great leadership skill to have. And it's a great way to motivate people. So yes, soft skills, communication, empathy, other soft skills, I would say, is what brings this together. If you're just having very smart ideas on how to beat cybercrime, but we have no way in cooperating in teams with our customers, with our partners, then we're not winning.
Yes, I wanted to ask you next about what companies can do to support women in cyber. But actually, from what you just said there, even if a company were to be more mindful about, what they put out there in a job application, or how they're viewed by the rest of the community in terms of, are you looking for, people that are empathetic? Are you looking for a certain type of leader? Not just necessarily, we need this qualification, that qualification. That's really going to attract a whole new pool of people, isn't it?
No, I think other companies also have realized that the way the job description is written is really important to attract all kinds of people. So yeah, I think that's super important. But there are, of course, a lot of other things that we should do and we can do. I'll give you one that is so super obvious, but it's around the whole maternity leave, right? The number one thing to do to make sure we keep all these females in the industry and we keep them active. We make sure there is no question of guilt. So I still, up to this day, have discussions with females pregnant saying, but I will be back. I assure you, I will take as little time as I can. This is a fact of life, right? If we are not having pregnancies, then what will happen to cybersecurity in the future, right? If I just talk about cybersecurity, so let's make sure these women can come back. We retrain them if they need to. We give them the flexibility they need to combine. And and we make sure they feel absolutely safe and no guilt, because that's absolutely not needed. Obviously, for that, we also need male stakeholders to embrace that, right?
Yes.
Very important.
Definitely. And as you said, it's it's also making sure that there are male stakeholders there that are also set an example. I suppose it's something to make sure that change is visible and that people can see it. And like we were talking about the imagery throughout the industry, it's just making sure that these things are visible and that people can clearly see that, you know, when a lady goes on maternity leave, it's not seen as something negative. And when they come back, it's seen as something positive. I've spoken to ladies on here who they've come back from maternity leave and they've been promoted. I spoke to one lady who she was interviewing heavily pregnant, and they said that they really wanted her and she got the job, and they said, we'll see you when you're done on maternity leave. But they got her on board even though she was going straight on maternity leave, because they just wanted to secure great talent.
Exactly.
And the more that we hear about that and see it, you know, I wanted to ask you about breaking down some of the stereotypes that we see in cyber and the tech industry as a whole. How can we break those stereotypes? But I suppose a lot of that is down to making sure that we continuously share those types of stories and that we hear the great things companies are doing.
Yeah, share the stories, absolutely. Like you said, change the images, right? So let's have images of female hackers, because they're there as well. But we also need to start like really early on at the grassroots. We need to make sure that there we set a level playing field. And there is no difference, male or female, in the interest for data or being a structured worker. And so we should really stimulate that, I think, and make sure it's also shown, because of course at that level maybe you're not immediately thinking I want to be in cyber security, but make sure those more abstract elements like data, like solving a puzzle maybe, right, is attracting both male and female. And I think we need to put a spotlight on that. There's a couple of really good initiatives already. And one is with the Cyber First schools. So this is from the NCSC. Maybe you've seen it. So they're really trying to stimulate the concept of cybersecurity education already at that level. I think that is kind of cool. And I'm sure if you bring these programs, there's no one is going to say, oh no, that's not for me, that's a very male industry. That doesn't happen. It will attract, I'm sure of it, it will attract boys and girls.
Yes, and even if say you're at a school that doesn't quite understand the types of careers that are available in tech, even partnering with a great initiative like you just mentioned, and having somebody else, you know, inviting somebody in and sharing their experience of working in the tech industry and in cyber can be so helpful. I had a lady on here, it was only a couple of weeks ago, and she said to me, when I was at school, I had a teacher that just, you know, she said that she wanted to do computer science, and they were like, oh no, you know, you don't really want to do that. I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you had a teacher that actually was trying to say to you, don't go into that area. But, you know, not all teachers understand all careers, so that's okay. But, you know, just making sure that, you know, if it would be so helpful if your school was inviting the right people in, the right initiatives in, so you can get a whole range of careers and ideas before you actually leave school, would be super helpful.
Yeah, and also I mean, my parents always stimulated me to go for the highest I could achieve, right? But in the case, maybe some families have that less, you need to have the school offset that. So the school has to push their pupils to go to the best of their ability, that they can do anything, and there should be no fear, there should be no difference. So yeah, and then inviting some role models, having some programs that entice these kids, I think would be super, super helpful.
Yes, definitely. And we've mentioned soft skills a little bit throughout this conversation.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned something so incredibly important, just being able to talk to a client and, you know, being able to communicate what they need from you. You know, they're just so useful for a career in cyber, aren't they? Soft skills. And it's something that I think we forget a lot about.
A lot, yeah, exactly, because you could be like the biggest expert, totally understanding how a hacker works and how you can stop this. If you have no way of communicating this, and communication is not just speaking a sentence like this is what you need to do, but asking the question, hearing what the customer is saying back, asking a question to clarify, did I understand this correctly, to really understand the problem, because the problem in most cases isn't, well, we see this cybersecurity risk. The problem in most cases is what's going to happen to our environment if we get all these checks and balances in, and then to being able to articulate, here you're having this concern, let me show you how, if we bring in our identity security solution, you're not stopping your primary process. No, you're making it more efficient. That's where the trust grows. And trust, like I said, is the most important ingredient here. Customer needs to trust us, trust our partners, that we can bring the right solution. And therefore, yeah, you have to have the ability to listen and to anticipate when you're answering.
Yeah, I think that's something as well that perhaps you don't pick up until you start your first job. As you were saying before about schools and qualifications, schools focus very heavily on, you know, making sure that their students get the top marks. They're not always thinking about those soft skills. By the time you reach work, you're actually a little bit like, oh my gosh, I didn't realize I had to speak to clients, let alone, you know, make sure that I can fully communicate what we're doing as a company.
No, exactly. And having a program around that, I think would be really good, like on universities, to have workshops and just have students make their mistakes, but in a very safe environment. So when they go into their first jobs, they've already made these mistakes and they've learned from it. Yeah, absolutely. That would be that should be a standard subject next to all the more theoretical elements.
Yes, I love that. Just a safe space to make mistakes is absolutely fine, and it's just not so bad when you get into work and you realize that, you know, depending on where you are and what the mistake is, that it's okay, you know, to make mistakes and fail, as long as you pick yourself up from them.
Exactly. Yeah.
We are almost out of time, but I have one last question for you. Do you have any final advice for our listeners who are thinking about a career in cybersecurity?
I would say reach out. To me, anyone in my environment, but anyone in cybersecurity, to have a chat, to understand it's not the heavy lifting that it may look like, and it is to make a start. There is so much information available already online. To select a couple of good podcasts or good websites to just have a look at that, and maybe speak, I don't know, to some of our partners that are very much living this with our customers, but to not approach it as like one big container element. Cybersecurity is so many different elements. Our part of identity security alone, it's a big niche, but there are so many aspects of it. So just take one step at a time, and try to follow what's your interest. Is it coding? Is it more advising to customers? And so it's a combination of things. It's not one job in cybersecurity. There is multiple things you can do.
Yes, I love that. And just knowing that, you know, you can reach out 9 times out of 10 people in the tech industry, they come back and, you know, they give you some advice on something, or they might point you in the direction of a great network, for instance. But yeah, even just finding somebody that can help you narrow down what you want to do. As you said, there's so many different elements, even cybersecurity. So
yeah,
trying to narrow down what you know, which direction you would like to go in next. And I suppose also just realizing that even if you do pick one element at this moment in time, that it could take you off into lots of different directions as well. I think sometimes we think, especially when you're graduating, for instance, you think I have to pick that one thing and that's going to be my career forever. Right. But you know, the tech industry can take you lots of different places, can't it?
Absolutely. And it's going so fast. Look at artificial intelligence or quantum computing. I mean, when I started my career, we weren't talking about these things. So it certainly wasn't something I planned to be engaged with. But it's there now, and it has connections to cybersecurity. So it changes so fast. So don't try to eat the elephant or boil the ocean. Take one step at a time, and yeah, make connections.
Yes. Renske, thank you so much. We are already out of time. It has flown by. So thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us today.
Super welcome. I really enjoyed it.
Good. Thank you. And to everybody listening, as always, thank you for joining us, and we hope to see you again next time.